What is your craziest character death? Specialty Priest of Lyra, Forgotten Realms Goddess of Deception. He told lies. Even his name changed every time he talked to someone. The party found a carpet, and was scared that it was a rug of smothering. He sat on it, and as it enveloped him, he said, "It's not a rug of smothering. I'm fine." It smothered him. Fighting against Beg Warlock, who had crazy regen from his long evil ritual, think cell from DBs, couldn't die unless every particle of him was gone. My fighter was able to survive his disintegration spell and crit against him, cutting his arm off. Second attack. Crit again, cut off a leg. Wizard says to be careful, his staff is powerful. Warlock is laughing, saying he can't die unless he is utterly destroyed. Fighter, with 4 horsepower, picks up his staff, a staff of the Archmagi. Shoves end into the Warlock's mouth, nailing him there, and says, "Then let's try this." And breaks the staff. Retribution Strike goes off for 10 by 50 damage, annihilating them both to not even dust. Had a character get divine intervention from the God of Death, then didn't repay the favor to him within the coming months, then found a deck of many things, drew the cards that make an ally turn into an enemy, DM chose that God of Death, then I drew the prison one, hold person or get trapped in another plane. DM rolled a percentile for the plane, just turned out it was the Abyss. Now Drethmore the Wizard was naked and imprisoned by the God of Death in the Abyss. One campaign, we were in a steampunk setting, and had the misfortune of becoming murder hobos. In an effort to get us back on track and working for the beg that would inevitably betray us, the DM had a hired assassin try to kidnap a party member. We killed the assassin after torturing him for information. We show up at the beg's house, kill his butler, then start a fight with him. After a while of clearly losing to his sword/flintlock pistol combo, a party member had the idea to turn on the gas in the kitchen and sacrifice himself. The beg fires his gun, and the entire block goes up in an explosion. Fortunately, our barbarian was able to use his bear totem rage alongside uncanny dodge to quarter the damage and come out virtually unscathed. He saved everyone except the one who sacrificed himself since he was in the epicenter of the explosion. My halfling cleric who worshipped Pella, praised the sun, needed to defeat the god's champion to prove he was worthy to become the god's new champion. The champion was a beefed-up and enlarged pseudo-dragon. We were low level and couldn't handle a real one. I decided to go big and use my best spell. I rolled a 1. And also max damage. The DM described it as like a bomb going off. I died, the dragon died, everything died. Fortunately my god took pity on me and brought me back, but it was still spectacular. I have been part to a number of player deaths, my own and others. The silliest one I remember involved a group that had a player we were trying to kill off. He played badly, was intolerable as a person, and ended up getting the party in endless trouble. After submitting him to numerous trials he survived, we eventually gave up. Later, we had an encounter that nearly wiped us out. In going to a safer place to heal, bandage, rest, my character ended up falling into a spiked pit. I managed to survive but was close to death. While I was trying to get out, the other players began arguing over some trivial detail. I was paranoid of something else happening to me while in the pit, so I ran out of patience and took matters in my own hands. I got out my rope, my grappling hook, and threw it up out of the pit. I ended up hitting the annoying character with it and got it hooked into his armor. So, I braced one leg against the side of the pit, grabbed the rope firmly, and pulled to set the hook. Imagine both my character's surprise and his as he gets pulled into the spiked pit, falling on top of me and killing both of us. Happened in a group IDM. Party of 5 dungeon crawling. A puzzle required party to split to groups of trio and duo. Having waited enough for duo to arrive, Wizard from trio grew restless and decided to check what's the problem. Only Wizard was able to go because the other two were busy with puzzle. Wizard decides to shortcut. Has to cross a bottomless pit. Made him roll acrobatics check. Rolled 1. Made him roll dex save to see if he can grab the ledge before falling. Rolled 1 again. A bit later duo arrives. Where's the wizard? They ask. He was meeting you halfway, didn't you see him? Nope. They never found him, no one ever knows what happened to him. My personal craziest death requires lots of context, and you can see it in this thread here. However, I will tell you about a party member's recent death. His name was Hunter, he was a rogue, and goddamn he did everything in his power to both roleplay his character correctly and almost screw the rest of us over. Hunter had lost his parents and siblings at a young age to an attack by seafaring raiders on his hometown. Since then he was raised/working for a halfling thief named Holstow who kind of ran the Thieves' Guild on our continent. At the same time there was a dwarven emperor enslaving other races and generally being a pain in the ass. Our barbarian, also a dwarf, character had the opportunity to meet the dwarven emperor's son in battle and killed him in 1v1 combat. This led to the surrender of the entire 10k strong legion to our barbarian. Apparently if a dwarf kills another in 1v1 combat he assumes the authority of the dwarf he killed. This will be important. Our barbarian decides he wants to send a message to the emperor by sending his son's head to him in a box. He employs Holstow to do this. The dwarven emperor responds by sending back Holstow's head in a box. Hunter didn't take that well. Almost immediately he set off alone to exact his revenge on the emperor. At the same time, some important NPCs, my character, and the barbarian come up with a plan to gain control of the dwarven faction by having our barbarian kill him in 1v1 combat. Terms are drawn up for the fight which were pretty good for us no matter the outcome of the fight, but definitely better if the barbarian won, since he'd be the emperor. About that time we realized what Hunter was doing and had to stop him, because any interference would invalidate the 1v1 combat and Hunter very much intended to interfere. 3 NPCs who were mechanical justickers that sort of protect our realm and a few other worlds escort our barbarian to the emperor and the fight begins. I, a ranger, am tasked with finding and stopping Hunter, but while I can always keep his trail I can never actually spot him, making him difficult to capture. Eventually Hunter makes his way to the dwarven palace, infiltrates the very room where the fight is taking place, and aims his rifle, think accurate matchlock. He fires from his hidden position, hitting the emperor right in the head just as the barbarian swings his axe down on the emperor as well. One of the justickers managed to stab Hunter straight through the back right after he fired, piercing his heart and killing him instantly. After that it was a burial, and lots of paperwork. Forever DM, here. I did kill a PC with dysentery, though. Fucking hell XD. It was fate. Truly. He had so many chances to succeed. He had A+2 con mod, and the DCs of the check were 11. This was intended merely to make life difficult during a sea voyage. Not only could this character not pass any of the saves, he had 12 days of suffering to fight it off. No one had bothered to learn lesser restoration, even with everyone trying to help him with medicine checks, still kicked the bucket. They never bothered to try to get him raised later, either, figuring that fate wanted him so badly that they should interfere. My bards had stashed alchemist's fire about her person and fed herself to a dragon, so she went out with a bang. She was crazy and deluded, being obsessed with the misconception that she was just a pawn trapped in a large simulated game where everyone manipulated by fate and the will of unknown entities. Not actually what happened, but more of an artistic rendition. It was one of my first attempts at D&D. I was a paladin, and party was exploring some cave. In a cave there was a weird portal with infernal shit coming out. Also a huge-ass demon, suspiciously resembling a Balor. Party runs away. I be like you go, I hold him off. Charge. It was agreed later that my paladin fell pushing Balor back to hell. My character was convinced he was the avatar of a dying god. They were on the home plane of a god of the hunt and found a shrine to that god of the hunt. Wanting to show my dominance over this weak god, I destroyed the shrine. Then that god got his avatar out. Wasn't able to beat him. Greater than. First edition. Guy in our party threw a fireball out of a necklace of missiles at an enemy and forgot to calculate the O. Caught himself in the blast, failed his save, and all the rest of the fireballs on the necklace cooked off. Did 180 d6 to everyone in the O. Lit a back alley of Greyhawk up like a small sun. We were 5th level. TPW. Only ever experienced one character death in my short D&D career, and it was last week. Party, I'm the DM, are going through the temples in Potter. Dwarf cleric falls asleep and monk decides to shave his beard and leave him with only a twirly moustache. Cleric wakes up and isn't happy, starts to fight the monk who initially doesn't fight back. Cleric casts Shatter, killing the chicken that the monk carries in a cage on his back. Long story. This enrages the monk who begins to fight back, but the cleric has picked up a sword which deals an extra damage dice to unarmored characters, from crushing wave reavers, so the monk goes down quickly. The warlock stabilizes the monk and brings him back to 1 health, but the cleric isn't happy. He attacks the monk with the sword and gets a natural 20, very nearly killing him outright. This time, he doesn't let anyone kill the monk, who dies from. My most memorable D&D death was playing a very stealthy halfling rogue in a 3.5e campaign about a decade ago. We hanged rest for a bit, and I figured I could case a small building out before we set down for the night close by. I was fairly low on hit points, but felt pretty confident in my abilities. I was scouting out a building and failed my hide check while peering into a window. A cultist saw me and cast a spell that seared my eyes. My character screamed in agony. A friend of mine, who thought my foray was reckless and knowing how low my health was, made a joke about killing me on a 1 for me next roll. The fighter who was tailing me came to help, and wouldn't you know it, I critically failed a check while fumbling and swinging around like a blind idiot. I ended up tripping and slicing my throat on a piece of the fighter's armor as I tripped. We had an established rule that if we made jinxes like that in our game, they would happen. So I was fairly okay with this result, and we still joke about it to this day. That house rule also got one of my characters, a Hadozi grapple fighter, arms bitten off by a raptor, and we ended up getting living metal arms grafted to his shoulders. It was a fairly great rule for our group, if only because our DM was not a dick about it. My most memorable death in any TTRPG has to be Dark Heresy, though. I was playing a guardsman who could stare at a grenade, pull the pin and laugh while it exploded in his face, only almost killing him at max damage. Our GM had set up a sort of anti-group for us to fight in the final leg of the mission, and I was in a brutal and edge-of-your-seat brawl with a Katakan fighter. My character was fond of a bolt pistol I had acquired on our adventures. It had never failed him. It was his friend and companion. The one he could always rely on. And as I stood over my counterpart, on the ground bloody, both of us down to our last icors of strength and my trusty bolt pistol in hand, I pulled the trigger to end him. Click jam. My foe cackled as he raised his pistol and put a round in my character, finishing him. Me, I want to burn a fate point. The GM looked at me and said, "How do you want to save your guy?" I told him I didn't want that. I wanted to pull every pin on every grenade that I could on my bandolier. And I wanted to flop on that son of a bitch and blow him to hell. "Only I kill me," I screamed as I fell on top of that bastard. I played a ranger in my last campaign, and made a floor where he was curious about things. Well, the DM threw a traveling caravan at us with dragonborn military guarding it. I tried to sneak up at night on it to see what was inside because of my curious nature. Well, it ended up getting us all killed. Party of 6 playing 3.5e a while back. One PC jumps in to rescue a drowning villager in an attempt to get some free meat or an in-room, fails his swim check and begins to drown. All 5 remaining PCs, one by one, try to save the last guy and we all end up failing the check and drowning. Mauled to death by a wandering Barovian Tyrannosaurus Rex while in the Svalich woods. Luckily, I was able to throw an entire bag stuffed with vials of alchemist's fire down its throat from my exception vantage point of between its teeth, driving it off in the end. It was a really weird game, all right. Not the death of one of my characters, but a death that was so hilariously stupid that none of us could help but laugh. To set the scene, our party consisting of a wood elf rogue, myself, a half-elf wizard, a dwarf fighter, and a human warlock were on a boat. We were on this boat because the island we were visiting for a quest had been attacked and ravaged by undead, killing all the inhabitants. As a result, there was no one around left to help us navigate, and it was up to us to get off the island despite this. Before leaving, we found a couple books on sailing and navigation. The warlock, named Crazy Jack, read the book on navigating by the stars first, and bear this in mind because this simple fact was the reason that he ended up dying. The half-elf wizard reads the book on sailing, and together we set out across the sea, only able to find our way by the light of the stars at night. About halfway through our voyage, the trickster deity came to our boat and offered us a draw from the deck of many things. Of course, with my rogue's luck being what it is, I drew the donjon card, banishing me to the ethereal plane. As you know, this banishment leaves behind all equipment, up to and including my bag of holding containing 100k in precious jewels. Of course, Crazy Jack nabbed this when no one was looking. The rogue and Crazy Jack did not get along. Again, this fact is important because of what happens next. The point in this adventure where everything went to shit was a simple D20 roll by the DM. Tonight is cloudy. You can't see the stars. Our warlock, being the only navigator and the genius that he is, decides that he should cast fly and go above the cloud level to see the stars, come back down, and then follow the stars by memory. Please don't even ask me why. He chose to do this over waiting for tomorrow night, because I couldn't tell you. Long story short, the bastard flies up to the cloud level. You find it hard to breathe as you get higher, says the DM. I keep going, yells Crazy Jack. All right. Make a Constitution saving throw, says the DM. The wizard fails the saving throw, and passes out mid-air, nearly up at the clouds. He, along with our bag of holding containing 100k in jewels, goes flat against the ocean surface, and is lost forever. Lost, at least, to the party. The DM ended up reasoning that since the bag of holding stores things in the ethereal plane, the gems and riches came pouring down on my now imprisoned rogue. Good times. 5e my friends, first time DMing, third session. Party with halfling wizard, dwarven paladin, me, halfling rogue, elf ranger, and human monk. Monk player actually spent a ton of time on their character and backstory, so they were excited to play. On quest to find magic weapons, come across lake with bridge. Say there might be something bad in water, so we go around. Rogue decides to refill water skin. Hydra pops out. Roll initiative. With some BS fire spells from wizard, Hydra can't regrow heads or such, and some BS spells from ranger, it can't move or attack. My pally is mounted, and uses lance to get hella damage. For some reason the DM doesn't like my mounts throughout the whole quest. We kill Hydra with pretty minimal damage. DM said we weren't even supposed to fight it, just run away. Gets angry because we did it with ease, and here comes an angry blue Dragolith, pissed we killed his friend, the Hydra. Most of the party runs away in time, all but me and the monk. Dragolith uses crazy lightning attack and kills monk outright, but not me because I was the tank. Dragolith flies away, leaving the incredibly detailed monk and my warhorse in ashes. Backstory: everyone in the party always tried to murder this paladin PC. We are playing a futuristic homebrew that takes place partly on an alien ship. Okay, so after the party has their way with these alien thugs, they all gain and equip themselves with these mysterious alien guns, which have a knob for different settings. They have to figure it out. So they go through all these settings, like light, stun and kill, when they test out the last mode in the corner of the room. They fire, and it shoots out a portal which opens to a different dimension. Our wizard goes, "Oh sweet. A portal," and promptly aims his gun directly at the paladin's head. He fires. Critical hit. Failed saving throw. The paladin's head is split open to make room for the portal as the rest of his limp body slides into the new gateway. Everyone cheers.
Hey adventurers and fellow Redditors, are you tired of hearing the same old battle music during your D&D sessions, or just looking for the perfect soundtrack for your next epic quest? Well, let me introduce you to Amazon Music Unlimited. With Amazon Music Unlimited, you get access to over 100 million songs, ad-free. That means whether you need an intense combat playlist, relaxing tunes for a tavern scene, or just something to vibe to while scrolling Reddit, we've got you covered. And it's not just about music, there are thousands of podcasts too. So if you need a break between campaigns, you can catch up on your favorite shows. Plus, there's the best part. If you sign up today, you can try it free for 30 days. No commitment, no hassle, just endless music and podcasts tailored to your taste. So whether you're crafting your next D&D campaign, painting minis, or just chilling with your party, make your soundtrack legendary with Amazon Music Unlimited. Hit the link below and start your free trial now, because every adventure needs a killer soundtrack.
In Curse of Strahd, my sister, playing a half-orc bard, wanted to play a different character, so the DM tried to get him killed. Adds an extra dire wolf to an encounter specifically targeting her character. She goes down, rolls a death saving throw. The party is level 3 atmospheres. Nat 20. She's back up. Wolf's turn comes around, downs her again. She makes another death saving throw. Natural. Fucking 20. Again. The wolves are all dead the next round, so that plan failed. Not too much later, Strahd decides to pay us a visit, making an entrance by snapping the bard's neck, and invite us to his castle. So we were in the Feywild at level 2 and were explicitly warned by our DM, if you go outside the town into the wild, you will probably die. So we do a few plotline things, and our ranger and sorcerer have the bright idea to go out hunting in their spare time without telling anyone else in-game. They found a unicorn accompanied by some pixies, I think. It could have been some other tiny fey, and they were both killed in a matter of minutes. A couple sessions ago my cleric watched their god get murdered by the sun god of justice. This god then came back to the group and decided to give one of our party members a boon, which was accepted. It essentially gave him have the same ability as that god. It made my drow not be able to look at that PC lest I go blind. I knew he was eventually done for, so I attempted to remind said god of his once humanity and the people who he once cared about, and now shunned, so I threw down my shield, took my warhammer in 2 hands and went to town, whilst trying to get this god to remember the man who alongside his friends became a go. I missed twice, and I knew then and there the god was going to zap me to pieces, but I didn't care. I was righteous. My hair blew in the wind as my hammer rang down upon his holy plate, and then he cast a spell. And I passed my save. With renewed vigor I taunted and mocked this god of justice who would kill one of his own just to fuel his own pride. He was no god, just a simple man upon a throne which he was unworthy of. My eyes had long since gone blind, but I still swung with holy fury. DM gave me advantage. 20. I creeped the god and landed the first real blow upon him in ages, reminding him that he was as material as you or me. With fire in his eyes he drew his sword. I felt my skin boil in my plate, just as his rage flowed through him. Who was I, a traitorous elf nobody to make him feel pain? I knew this would be the end. I laughed a laugh as if my dead trickster god was alive in me, for I knew the sun god wouldn't forget me or the events that had transpired. His holy flesh dented and bruised. As he vaporized me I knew I had done my duty, for my god would never be forgotten. He always had the last laugh. R.I.P. Dolian the Grey U. Glorious level 10 bastard of a war cleric. I had kept rolling dangerously low on during a simple mission playing as a rogue. My DM told me as I got one more one the consequences would be dire. Lo and behold, the next roll was a 1. A cougar jumped out of the bushes attracted by THR noise and attacked me. 5 more ones later, I'm dead as shit. After that it was standard in our games that if you rolled one more than 4/10 rolls a cougar attacked no matter where you were. We even had a space cougar one time, lol. I sat in on a game my older buddy was DMing, apparently 15 years in the making. It was homebrew, and alcohol had a lot to play in bad decisions the DM made. Somehow one player was awarded a talisman that could summon/dismiss a Teresk at will. It was summoned in an argument between PCs, and the pick on the receiving end apparently did not know how to defeat a Teresk, so he tried a little 1v1. He got squished. And just like that a character 15 years old was killed. In one of my first campaigns I had played a thief, whose lust for gold and pickpocketing had overwhelmed him slowly. We were tasked to set fire to a goblin preschool where there were corrupt political figures stashing weapons, money and stolen property. We were given 3 explosive barrels, with one being 50 kilograms and the others being 20. I asked my DM to leave the room and devised a plan. My character wanted to put a 20 kilograms barrel in the market, one at the stash, and the 50 kilograms by the bank vault that held most of the currency so that my character could steal it. Most of our party agreed with it, as we were already very chaotic. The first 2 barrels went off and all of the town guards were at the scenes. At the same time, my character and one other that had the smokescreen spell pulled the barrel up to the vault door. We lit it and my body was already cleared from the explosion. As I was about to dash and get away from the radius, a guard pummeled me and I was still within 15 feet of clearing the blast radius. Boom! Ashes fell from the sky. There were clouds rising quickly. My partner used the smokescreen after he took off with 200 grams and we never found mine, or the guard's remains. So this wasn't my character's death, but it was my dad's. He was playing a very high-level dwarf, huge plate armor, giant axe, the works. He and his group were walking down a very dark cave. They couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead of them. One of them set off a trap that caused a large cage to fall from the ceiling. My dad was the only one who managed to roll a saving throw and his character rolled ahead to escape the falling cage. There was a reason why they couldn't see too far ahead though. The cave opened up into a massive chasm and he rolled off the edge and fell hundreds of feet to become a dwarf pancake right in front of a very startled dragon. Turned out the cage was easy to pick open and everyone else went on their merry way. He never got another character to higher than level 15 with that group as everything was so high level in comparison to him. One of the last games I was a player in, our group was making their way to their next destination and the road/surrounding area has been empty for the past few days. Out in the field, beneath one of the few trees that dot the hilly terrain, they see a lone young man, practicing swordsmanship. Our every friendly rogue decides to approach him, so we follow suit. We get about 45 feet out, I stay about 60 feet our, arrow nocked but no drawn, and she calls out hello. Next thing we know the boy is charging her with the sword raised. Without hesitation I draw back and fire. Nat 20. Rolled max damage. Kid is fucking dead, arrow through the eye. The party loses their minds, and as the rogue gets closer to look at the body she starts to tell me it was just a blunted training sword and that he couldn't have been more than 13, but all she sees on her end is me standing there, unable to speak, a rapier protruding from my heart, and a tiefling behind me that nobody noticed. Tiefling was an assassin 10 levels higher than the party, and the child's mentor. Also a major NPC. I was very, very dead. One day, I was considering making my lawful good character into lawful neutral. I thought next session. We meet a villain, an anti-paladin. He fought a duel with one of our party members, defeated him, and killed him. My dude decided to duel him next. Of course I knew the villain was already worn out from his first duel. But he still had a smite good in his pocket, which he used. And got a critical. And my guy managed to fail his ensuing massive damage save. Would that I had changed my alignment. Not mine, but a good one nonetheless. The druid of my group was turned into stone by a beholder, and the player decided to reroll a character who was supposed to be temporary until his druid could be unpetrified. That is until a series of events cast my whole group into a different timeline, effectively killing his character by making him irretrievable. It was a book campaign and the chances for the timeline shift happening was 2%. Everyone in the group was on board with getting his druid back, and he had spoken with the DM to make sure that he could switch back to his petrified character when we cured him. The dice said no. Ephraim Twinblade, a half-elf spell-sword man that died sealing a portal to the 9 hells. Ephraim always told himself he had no friends but one Coco, his cat familiar, also a PC. The plot our party was flowing led us to a strange man who said Atia, world name, would open from the layers of hell and burn in fire. No one believed him except Coco, so naturally Ephraim helped convince the party this was true. Fast forward 3 months in game and our whole party in operating siege weapons on the back of a giant stone construct, PCs tossed off left and right while fighting a gargantuan creature that came from the hole in the land. It was just us two left, the Ephraim and Coco, when it came time to seal the portal. This portal required us to break the singularity, a small orb in the middle of the portal about 200 feet down, and it must be broken with magic. We didn't have ranged spells left after Coco healed me, but I had my magic swords. I offered to jump in and stop it, but Coco told me she was going in too, so I did what a true hero would. Knocked her out, and she couldn't die unless I died first, then she was mortal, so I tied her to a ballista arrow, shot her about 500 feet away, waited until she hit the ground for damage, and leapt off the construct. DM calls for an attack with a D6 DM inspiration dice, total 27 to hit, beating the orb so terribly it was gorgeous. I hooked my blades in the orb and hung there for a bit, taking in the last sky of Atia I would ever see. Then I funneled all of my remaining magic into the swords, shattering the blades and orbs alike before slowly falling down the hellfire. Ranger on same team shot an arrow at an orc right next to the character. Rolled a critical 1, DM, okay, arrow misses, orc roll against the AC of the PC. Critical 20, with the X2 damage on damage roll, it instantly killed character. Assuming 5e, IRC, ranged weapons impose disadvantage if used on enemies within 5 feet, so that shot had a poor chance of hitting anyway. I believe he means the target orc was right next to a teammate. His one botch made the arrow now hit the teammate instead of the orc. Quite why he rolled the d20 a second time instead of just applying damage dice is intriguing, but I guess that's what happens when you lump armor, dodge and chance to hit all into one value and call it AC. Salt incoming. I had an orcish necromancer in a Pathfinder/5e mix an experienced DM was trying to do. I tried to use teleport, rolled my d100, got a roll that should have just landed me elsewhere and had me take damage, but it buried me 34 feet underground and killed me. He never explained I needed to know and use a particular sigil to use the spell to go to particular locations, just that it was a use of the teleport spell. Needless to say, the next day, he was kicked as DM. One of my players in my current 2e game. The party is fighting a clan of Grell and the leader has melded with a spelljammer ship that is shelling the high-level party during combat. The half-dragon fighter flies up and attacks the ship, and gets swallowed in the process. Manages to hack himself a hole free in the center of the ship, unbeknownst to him he's standing in the powder room. I'll use my fire breath to light up the room and look around. 4th of July came early this year. Not sure if this is really crazy, but it's the most memorable of the admittedly few character deaths, mine or others, I've experienced. We were taking a break from our long-running Pathfinder campaign to play through 3.5 Tomb of Horrors. I was playing Torok, a Wood Elf Barbarian, and my friend was playing, I can't for the life of me remember his name, but he was awesome. An older knight who spoke almost like Foghorn Leghorn. Expansive, overbearing, and sometimes impatient with the other PCs, and his poor nephew who served as his squire. He was a riot. Both he and Torok died in this incident, and while Torok is perhaps the most expendable character I've ever played, I was sad to see the old knight go. Tomb of Horrors is a rather unforgiving dungeon. We were walking down a long hall, when, halfway through it, the floor suddenly angled down to a pool of lava, which we all started sliding towards. The other PCs were able to get handholds and scramble out, but not Torok. He slid down into the lava, becoming terribly burned. The old knight did his best to save Torok, eventually using a potion or scroll or something to cast fly on himself. He valiantly swooped down and pulled Torok out of the lava. My hero. However, as he was pulling me away we both somehow failed our checks and both plunged back into the lava. Talk about one fell swoop. It was my first character death, so that was memorable, even if Torok really wasn't. I was much sadder, though, that my friend's much more entertaining character died too. Most dramatic, and only, player death. It was only their second time playing DND ever. Both the cleric and rogue had fallen to an ogre. The barbarian, focused on the fight at hand, has only the time to yell to the druid to save the rogue. The cleric will just come back. She does so and the rogue resumes the fight, where the cleric goes to make their second saving throw and exclaims I'll try rolling a new way, nothing can go wrong. Natural 1. Cue me standing on a chair and giving a depressing speech of how their eyes glazed over and time paused as the cleric took their last shuddering breath. I don't get it, haven't played 3x yet. Is the skeleton ripping a normal effect of the bone ooze? Why didn't the rig of freedom of movement work? And if it couldn't grapple you, why did you need to save anyways? A lot of the stuff is fuzzy as it happened a long time ago, but I think the DM ruled that because I willingly jump in the ooze the effect still took place. Had I made the save I would have walked out no problem. And I think the bone ooze is in the 3.0 EP handbook, so check there if you gots it. Our group had found a lightning rail train powered by lightning elemental, and was taking it to a city run by Tinker Gnomes. It hadn't been used for 100 years or more, but worked without issue and the tracks seemed fine. There happened to be a construct in the cabin next to a till with a bar full of alcohol behind. Our warlock took a bottle and paid something for it into the till. The construct didn't seem to do anything. So our wizard and rogue decided to rob the till. That's when the construct activated. The warlock and myself moved to the engine compartment while the construct attacked the two that stole from the till and proceeded to throw them off the train. We ended up disconnecting the carriage just in case the construct decided to come after us. Both the wizard and rogue were killed on impact with the ground since we were traveling at quite high speed. Me and another player were subjected to some of the DM's weird creation, purple dust. After falling asleep, we both had to make wisdom and constitution saving throws, and we collectively only failed one, which was my wisdom throw. My consciousness was placed into the other character's body, leaving my body lifeless. Trying to figure this mess out, getting into a big fight inside of our head in the process, an NPC that the other player's character hated pops up and says, "Hey, I can help." The other player then proceeds to stab our one body through the stomach with their sword, killing both of us. It was a crazy campaign. Mine comes from an epic campaign way back in the heady days of 3.0. We were trying to fight off an invasion from another dimension. The DM took the Dread Emperor from the Book of Vile Darkness as his beg, and we were racing to stop him. So we end up in a dungeon fighting a bone ooze who got the drop on us. One player who was playing a Dwarven Paladin immediately got engulfed. His dex gets dropped to the point where he is immobile. DM keeps making him roll fort saves, which he has no trouble making Dwarven Paladin. I am kind of concerned for him, as he is taking serious damage every round. I was playing a rogue, 2-weapon fighter. So I'm scouring my character sheet and I remember that I have a Regi of freedom of movement. The ooze can't grapple me. I tie a rope around my waist and hand it to the fighter and prepare to dive in. I said those famous last words, "What's the worst that can happen?" And jump? The DM cackles and says, "Yay. No one's done anything this stupid in a long time. Roll a fort save." Which I fail? I found out firsthand what those fort saves the dwarf was making were for. My skeleton is immediately ripped from my body, killing me instantly. This campaign was like 12 years ago and my friends still bring up what's the worst that can happen.
Hey there, fantasy fans. If you're looking for an epic listen, you have to check out Rosamund Pike's narration of the Wheel of Time audiobook. Rosamund Pike brings so much life to Robert Jordan's world. Her performance adds an extra layer of depth to the characters, making the story even more immersive. Whether it's her portrayal of the fearless Aes Sedai or the intense magical battles, she nails it. It's like experiencing the Wheel of Time in a whole new way. And here's the best part. You can get it for free with Audible's 30-day trial of Audible Plus. You'll get access to this incredible audiobook and more, completely free for a month. So if you're ready to dive into this massive fantasy world, this is the perfect way to start. Don't miss out. Check the link below and start your journey today. 100% free for qualifying people. Completely free. Click the link.